Welcome, everyone, to Education Today. I'm your host, Scott Noons. I have a special guest for you today, Don Sturm, coming all the way from Illinois. He's a tech integration specialist. As you can see, he's sporting his very nice Ubuntu t shirt.
Yeah.
I believe he's an ambassador as well, and just an all-around great guy, podcaster as well. He's going to be talking about that a little bit, and we're going to be talking about STEM as well. So, Don, how are you today?
I am doing well this morning. It's 9 o'clock here, so you're early in your neck of the woods. But yeah, doing well. It been a rough couple of days. I was not
Yeah,
feeling well, and but sort of back to normal. So, or getting back to normal, I will say.
yeah, you're a trooper. I think, everybody, of course, is concerned about the coronavirus and catching it and passing it and spreading it. And uh, pretty much everybody I know that's getting sick right now, thankfully, they have something else, but they have maybe one or two things that kind of mimic like a sore throat or,
Yep, that's
unpleasant diarrhea, something like that. And they're like, oh no, do I have this? Let me go get my rapid test. And then thankfully they're good.
yeah, and that's kind of how it was. I mean, I woke up Thursday morning and just felt like a truck hit me. And I'll spare some of the symptoms, but just body aches and
Hey, Barbara.
didn't have a fever, but yeah, went and got a test, and about I don't know midway through yesterday, which they said 2 to 4 days. About midway through yesterday, I got the negative back, and so I still have the body aches, throat feels a little weird, but
Hmm.
any other year, honestly, I would have gone to school, right or wrong. I, I would have. And this one's just like, yeah, it felt weird to wake up and yeah, you're a little bit sore, but okay, I'm going to stay home. But it's just, you have to, um, or I think you have to.
Yeah, no, it better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a coworker, same thing. Um, just erred on the side of caution. We did have a local positive case. I did get notice. Thankfully, I'm already at home, so
Yeah.
I'm
That's,
good. So I didn't get exposed. So it was good, but it was neat to see the contact tracing at play, and it gave us like a last exposure date, so we could kind of play a part in that investigation if in fact we were in proximity to the office at that time, but they had pretty much squared everything away by the time I got the email. So
yeah. And I've not had to go through that yet. At all. I mean, obviously, if it would have been a positive test, then I would have been going through that. But I've not, yeah, I've not had to experience that. I know our assistant superintendent, that is his role in it, and I think he is just knee deep in it because we are in school. We have been
face
in,
to face.
yeah, we've been face to
Wow.
face the whole year. Um, we have
Wow.
some remote learners, but we and our board expressed the intent to stay in person. So honestly, for our district, I don't know unless our governor shut schools down
Okay.
like he did in May. I'm sorry, March. Months
Right.
run together anymore with this
Right.
with
It's
our
like 5 years in
situation. So
one.
yeah, so yeah, exactly. I saw a meme on Facebook that said something like, "Is anybody else think that 2020 seemed like it lasted 5 years or something like that?" So yeah,
Yeah. I know my days, they're good days. I'm getting so much done, but I'm burning the midnight oil, burning the candle at both ends sometimes, especially with the podcast. We're doing the 12 Days Educator series. And it's been great, but to keep up with everything and to keep up with the family and actually spend some time with my family, I've been keeping late nights, early mornings, and it's a bit taxing. My walks have been getting me through. I've been doing walks throughout the day. I found for me that multiple walks throughout the day is what's working best for me. It mimics probably best what I would do if I were on campus. I walked a lot when I was there in person. I would, walk to and from my classroom. And it was a bit of a trek, especially if I was lugging stuff because I had to go upstairs, and then our admin office was a ways away. So I had to walk there, or if I'm visiting other friends and colleagues in different buildings. We had a pretty big campus there at Enoch's where I was at last year. And then on lunch, I would go walk as well. So trying to mimic that because I put on some pounds from March to about August. And then I got really serious again in August and September. And the fires kind of put a damper on that, sadly. And so,
Oh yeah, and that's it's so for me, March through August, my activity level was like through the roof. I mean, I would take my dogs for 2 or 3 walks. I would go downstairs and do some working out, and then because we went back to school, I got into that routine where I would come home and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit down just for a touch and just kind of relax. And then, you get in that relaxing mode and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's supper time. So I'll fix supper. And then you're like, oh, I'm kind of full. And then the end of the night comes and, you've not worked out. And now with being in central Illinois, we are at 41 degrees right now, which doesn't
Ooh,
sound bad, but this is the highest temperature. 43 actually is the highest temperature we're supposed to see today. And that was like 20 minutes ago. So, you
okay.
know, you start, I mean, you get into that, temperature decline. And here it's basically, for me, I'm not one, I don't know, I don't enjoy working out in when that cold hitting your lungs. I've never been a big fan of that. So for me, it's doing stuff like that inside.
Right. Yeah, that's been a challenge too. I really don't have the space inside with multiple children, a wife, and myself. And uh, our home, it's not a large home by any means. And so there just isn't space. Of course, I could always, force it to work, push ups, sit ups, go old school, like when I was in high school for wrestling,
Oh yeah.
and just kind of do it in place. But I get so bored
Yeah, there's no
with that.
question. I mean, I have found right now I am going back while I do I don't have a Peloton bike, but I've got a weighted flywheel bike, and
Nice.
I put on the Clone Wars, and I am rewatching the Clone Wars on Disney Plus. So I
Good
because
series.
it is boring. I mean, it's like you're not seeing anything. You're not, and so that does make the time go by. Does make the time go by a little faster when you do that.
Yeah, and that's a great point with the bike. That's something that I do want to try out, and I think it's worth trying out. You just put on a show or something interesting, or you could pay for the online classes and
Yep.
have that community piece. I'm big on community, so I thought about investing in that and exploring that maybe over winter break. For a while, everything was sold out, so I just couldn't get anything. Like I wanted to buy a Bowflex machine. My uncle has one, and I have a shed in the back. I thought, I could probably fit like the Bowflex weights. They're really nice because you can have just two dumbbells, but you
Yeah.
have many
Yep.
variations within
And
that. I
then you
thought,
twist them, and yeah.
right. And they make solid equipment. He's had his Bowflex for 15 years, I want to say. He got it like right about the time they were going mainstream on TV. And I thought, oh, let me get that. And probably about April was when I started looking, and everything has been sold out. I signed up for alerts. It just came back right around Black Friday was when I
Oh,
saw
okay.
stuff really come back. And affordable quality treadmills, same thing. And now I'm just thinking like, where am I going to put this stuff right now? It's going to be kind of hard to store, but the bike, I could probably make that work. And uh, part of my motivation, I guess, is my buddy Daniel Del Real. I had him on the show. He's a realtor, but also a triathlon or triathlete with one of our other buddies. And I've seen them grow over the last 8 years. And it's just one of those things, you put the time in and your body adapts and you grow. And now they're actually competing, and they do quite well in these triathlons around the world. So thought, hey, that'd be cool. I could hang with my buddies, but they're so far above me right now.
Well,
It'd
and
definitely take some years for me to catch up.
yeah, I mean, I know when I started, I don't know how many years ago, probably 2001, I just looked at myself and I'm like, okay, I got to do something here. And started taking, I mean, at the time it was a spinning class. And I mean, weight just drops off of you. I mean, heart rate
Mhm.
is up. And so there is something to be said for the classes. Like when I'm doing it on my own downstairs, I don't think I'm always pushing myself the way that I should be. I mean, it's obviously better than nothing, but I was, well, like last week, I was in a Apple Watch competition with Sarah Thomas, and she just, I mean, just slaughtered me. And I mean, she like all of a sudden and I think the difference is not that she wouldn't have slaughtered me either way, but with going into work, it just limits the time. I mean, she would do like, I think what it was is, hey, I've got a half an hour. I'm going to jump on the bike for 20 minutes.
Right,
And she'd do like 4 biking workouts in a day. And I'm doing 1 30-minute uh,
right.
thing. So, but it is better than nothing. And I think I saw a comment flash up there. I was in thought and didn't read it, but just I
Yeah,
think
that's
it was
from
something to the
Barbara.
effect
Here, I'll
of
pull it up
just
again.
have to,
Yeah, so Barbara says,
yeah,
the movement is so
yep,
important, and as a benefit, my husband and I have lost 20 pounds, which is amazing. Yeah, I too have lost a bit. I still got a little bit more to go to be pre-COVID, but I'm almost there now. And yeah, harder when the elements get in
yep.
our way. I know I was doing great, and those California fires, they slowed me down. And some folks might be wondering, why are we talking so much about fitness when we're going to talk about technology? But you know what? You can't even really engage in the work we do with education unless you have mental wellness. And a big part of that, I'm realizing, stems from physical
Oh,
wellness.
absolutely.
My brain function just goes up and maintains. So it's not like I necessarily feel smarter at any point, but I maintain a higher level of productivity when I do these little breaks. So I try to go, if I can, a walk before work, a walk on my lunch break, and then a walk after. And that's perfect. I have like some different loops, and uh it's just kind of nice, and it's really relaxing. And I'll tune in on Voxer to our 4 o'clock faculty group
Yep,
and
yep.
catch up. Generally, I'm just listening like a podcast, and I'll chime in every now and then when I have something to add. That's actually something I want to transition to. How we met. We met through that group, and then we connected in person at ISTE 2019, which was awesome.
That
I'm
was
gonna
awesome.
throw up some pictures here and share out. So this first one, oh, selecting the wrong one here. Here we go. Share screen. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Uh, Here we go. So here's our first meeting, at least the first time I remember connecting in person. I saw you before, but we knew we were going to meet. We actually got
Exactly.
to chat. This is in front of Pat's. You got Gino's. I think in the background you can see the O
Yep.
right behind Michael's head there. We got Matt Miller.
We're waiting in a long line right then to
Yeah.
get seats.
So we got a bunch of our friends here. This was really great. And then after we went to reading market, and that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was, I mean, for those people who went to ISTE 2019, that Reading Market, oh my word. I mean, it was just cram packed with people. Um, yeah, luckily the tickets were only $10 and I had already eaten a cheesesteak because I got like just a little touch of whatever it was that we found at one booth.
Yeah, anybody that was there knows how crazy that was. Like,
Yeah.
I would wait in a line, and then it seemed like almost every time I got to the front or was getting close to the front, they ran out. And so I know I got frustrated. I ended up calling it. You guys um, went to go get like a formal dinner and meet up with the larger 4 o'clock faculty group.
Yeah.
I stayed, met with my local group, saw Rochelle Dene Poe, got some pics with her, and then I just went to bed because I had just got into Philly that morning. I didn't sleep all night. I did a red eye, and
Oh, I remember that.
yeah, my flight was delayed, and I had to get a new flight, and it was a mess. I wasn't going to get to ISTE until like the next day, and essentially go from airport to airport around the nation to get there. And so I just splurged, paid a lot of money. It was like $800 for a one-way ticket to Philly from San Francisco. And I decided, you know what, it's worth it. Like, I'm already paying this much for the conference. I'll pay a little bit more, I guess, and get there. And it was so worth it. And then at the end of our trip, I'm gonna throw this other picture
And
over.
I'm smiling because I know what it's going to be. Yeah.
So why don't you talk about this experience a little bit, Don?
So on that last day, Heather Mars and you and I decided, okay, we're going to do this sightseeing tour, which you can't really gain other than the sun shining on us and Heather with her, the muscles, her trying to show off her muscles. It was about 8,000 degrees outside. And so we're sitting on the top of this bus, but what you can't see is the giant Flipgrid tent that
Yeah.
Scott had won or whatever. And we had to we each kind of took turns lugging this around and the bus was packed. So I think my feet are actually on it. I think it's kind of
Yeah,
stuck in there. And
it's
then,
right there by your right leg.
yeah.
It's
Oh
that
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a blast. We did one of those where, we stayed on the bus and then got off of it. I think we actually, maybe stopped at a local establishment for a drink
that
and
was great. Had some peanut butter beer of some
yeah.
sort, and it was delicious. I thought I was gonna hate it, but that was probably one of my favorite ones we tried.
Yeah, it was a good time that day. And I want to say it was on like the last full day that we did that.
Nice. We got Michael Drezik in the house. What's
Oh, there's
up,
Michael.
brother? And he's got
Hey, you
this
like
to
that?
say
Yeah, I
about
got
your
my Bunty
shirt. Of
shirt on.
course. Yeah, you'd be making Marie proud.
Well, and
Uh,
here's another person that I met and have had contact with on Twitter for quite a while, and we met for the first time at ISTE 19. So I mean, I think ISTE 19 was so important for me because I had gotten involved in Twitter, I don't know, 4 years before that. And you know how you just keep kind of getting a little bit more involved and a little bit more involved. And then I got involved in 4 o'clock faculty basically about 3 years ago. And then when you go and you even though you have a relationship with people online, when you take that in person, it just, I don't even know. I don't even know how to best describe it. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, I knew these people were real, but then when you interact with them and you're like, okay, this is like, one of the complaints that people have about social media is, and I never did it, but like dating sites, like you never know who you're talking to. You
mhm.
realize I know who I'm talking. I know who I've been
Exactly.
talking to for 4 years. So, and it makes me miss those in-person type
Mhm.
of things. So, like I
Right.
did, and this is not a slam at all toward ISTE. I had the opportunity to attend this year and I found some good things. It just wasn't it wasn't the same for me. And like I said, that is not a slam toward ISTE. It just was
Just
not the same.
yeah, just is what it is.
Yeah,
They had to do, what was in the best interest in terms of safety, and we all
sure.
get it, but it still makes us sad that we couldn't reconnect in person. I know my summer was set up to where I was really looking forward to that. I was going to take my family and, do some things with my family there at Disneyland, and when I wasn't attending sessions, and then come back and do evening socials. So we had it all mapped out. I was bringing the in-laws too. So it was going to be like a big to do, and
Yep.
hoping for next year. Already, looking to have things booked for that. So hopefully, with everything going on, we'll be okay. I got a couple more pictures, and then we can kind of move on. So part of our trip, you see him lugging around all my swag I won. Unlike Don and Heather, I did not think things through. They were really smart, and they had everything held at their hotel room. I did not. I didn't think this out. They had mentioned the tour. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go." And then I got all this swag, not thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to lug it around." And I probably would have been dead without your help. And then I got a funny pic because you taught me you should never leave your camera alone. Take a
Oh,
take
yeah.
a that. So
A
there's
friend of
that
mine.
that that zinger. I thought, oh, that's a great one there.
Well, a friend of mine, oh, he kind of taught me that anytime somebody, which now, I mean, it's been a year since somebody's asked me to take a selfie, or I mean, a picture of them, but I always turn the camera around before, like there, I'm like, okay, move over to the side, move it. Well, the whole time I'm taking a selfie of me. So yeah, that's from a
That's
friend of mine.
exactly what happened. And then when
My
I'm
wife thinks
looking
it's the
through my
norm.
photos, like, hey, how'd this get in here?
Yeah, that's the best part of it
Um,
is, I mean, the best part of it is,
hey,
hey,
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Yeah, it's the best part of that is I miss it because I'm not there when they come across it. So,
Mhm. No, that was a treat. That was a really good time. Like, uh, Michael Dresik said, I'm missing it too. Having the photos and looking through them, especially when I was doing like the EdTech karaoke this week. I tuned in for a little bit while I was doing some work on Thursday, and it took me back. It was nostalgic. Now, of course, it wasn't the same, but it was really nice. And speaking about things not being the same and changing, how has your work as a tech integration specialist pivoted or changed due to the pandemic?
well, and you and I were talking before we went live, just that idea of I had
Yeah,
it's funny. I'm getting distracted by Michael's comment. Oh yeah, you don't want to leave your phone unattended.
no.
Um, but so I had 6 years of a normal tech integration role to base it off of, and so this year's just been dramatically different in
Mhm.
that I serve kind of two roles. My official title is tech integration specialist, but I'm a little bit on the tech side and
Okay.
a lot on the curriculum side. So like one of the Google admins. I'm one of the filter admins. Anything that really connects directly to students and teachers, they wanted to give me a role in. So like partly managing the iPad so that if a teacher says, hey, what kind of apps here and what kind of apps there, I can do that and push it out. And I don't have to wait for the tech department to then decide, okay, is this something that can go on the iPads or not? So I've loved that role.
Mm.
This year it's just taken front and center because even though we're in person, we have a fairly good sized chunk of kids who are, on quarantine at any point in time. And so teachers are having to navigate that. We went to Schoology as our LMS, and that's probably been the biggest chunk of my time this year, particularly August, September, October. It was just, I mean, I was slammed with that. And so
Mhm.
it's changed in that I haven't been in the classrooms as much as I would have been in a normal year. So I miss that part of it. Um, I was just in a classroom actually teaching a third grade class about Bunsey, and it was just like, I mean,
That's
I don't know
cool.
how to say it other than it like warmed my heart, and I loved it.
Right.
That's something that I would have done on a regular basis.
Mm.
Now it seems to be more on the troubleshooting end or figuring things out. Like with Schoology, I spent a couple of days, it kind of clicked. Oh, wait, this is the first time that teachers are going to have classes change at semester on Schoology. I don't
Oh.
really know what's going to happen. So I spent some time researching, doing some videos. Hey, here's what to expect. Here's how to handle this. Here's how, and in a normal year, I wouldn't have to do that as much. So it's changed, but not like if we wouldn't have been in person, I
Hmm.
don't know how that role would have changed. So it's like while I was nervous about going in person, still am being in person, makes me a little bit nervous. I don't know what my role would have looked like had we been completely at home.
Yeah, Michael Dresik says he
Yeah.
can say the same to that, yeah, kind of like edtech whack-a-mole versus
Yep.
true integration. And as a first year edtech coach, I've functioned like a tech integration specialist as well, and a lot of troubleshooting. It's like put out this fire, pivot here. Oh, we need this training, we need this webinar. And so you mentioned Schoology. One training I'm working on right now is Schoology organization. So
Oh,
not
we need to
uh,
talk.
yes, yes. So I'm putting out. They want an asynchronous course, so that's really cool. I'm really liking using Adobe Captivate to create um, those little courses where you watch a video, then it asks you a question before you can move on, kind of like an ed puzzle, but the professional version of
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And that's a great skill set. Like going on from here, like, hey, I could say I did this, and uh, then hopefully I can bring that back into the classroom somehow. I would love at some point to get students doing that, doing their own trainings, because that's a great skill set. They can come out of college and have a very lucrative career right out the gate, because not that many people do that. There's only one guy that I know of that has a YouTube series on Adobe Captivate, Paul Wilson. So shout out to him. His videos have saved me more than once. And yeah, as you know, Schoology is
Well,
it's great,
it's
but it's a challenge to kind of get everything to look and function the way you need it to, especially when you're first starting.
yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there that we could talk about. It's funny that you mentioned the Adobe Captivate. I had never used that before, but I think you tweeted about it, and I actually saved it into Wakelet because
Right.
I want to go back and do that because that's what we're always struggling with right now. I feel as an ed tech coach that I have to be a model all the time.
Yes.
So I look at that, and on one hand, I say, okay, Adobe Captivate would be cool, but I want to do what we're doing with Schoology within Schoology to show teachers how they can use Schoology for this kind of feature. So my colleague and I, she is a new instructional coach. We're calling it Mastering Schoology, and we're just taking skill sets that you need and making them into somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes of here's how to do this particular skill. Here's how to use Edpuzzle within Schoology. Here's how to link this. Here's how to do this. And then letting teachers kind of pick those courses that they want. At first, we were doing the completion rules. You and I talked, you helped me a ton with that. Well, then what started happening, the more we added, there were teachers that said, I want to do this one way down here, but
Hmm.
I don't want to have to start up here. And so we made that conscious decision. Okay, that makes sense. Let's let people have that open. But I am interested in those kind of more professional looking courses, whether it's, Adobe Captivate or I'm trying to, the conferences that I go to, I've been writing down the different platforms. What I'm
That's
finding is,
great. That's a great idea. I should have been doing that too
yeah,
because
I
we
just
use
write
so
down,
many
oh, this is,
different ones, right?
well, and I'll tell you, on the other hand, the problem is when you start looking at the cost, and I'm not going to pick on anyone, I'm not going to mention them, but there was
Yeah.
one that I really loved. It was the coolest feature. You went in and you would go for 3 minutes and you would jump into this room, and then it would, like, I'm assuming like a roulette wheel, and then boom, you'd be put, like you and I, in a room, and we didn't necessarily know each other. We'd have 3 minutes. If we wanted to extend the time, I think you could extend it one time. I mean, I loved it. For an extrovert at a conference that you can't actually be at, it was awesome. But when I checked on the pricing, I mean, it was like, there's no way if I went to my administration and said, hey, how about $18,000 for this platform, I probably would not go. So I think a lot of these platforms started out as like business types of platforms, and now they're saying, hey, we've been doing this for years to
Right.
school. And so I am trying to keep that, what can we learn from this? Because ultimately, in what we've done since March, my biggest fear is that all of that wanting to get back to normal, I don't want it to be, let's just go back to the way it was. Doesn't mean that what we were
Yeah.
doing was wrong. And I always say that it's, let's use these lessons that we learn, what worked, what didn't work, and let's put those in play moving forward. So, for instance, all the asynchronous stuff that teachers are doing to help students, I would say let's step back and what's the value of asynchronous? What is the value of that flipped model, even when we're all back in school?
Right.
Sorry, I need to take
What's
a breath there.
No. You're okay. It's good to reflect on the takeaways, and I've been doing that a lot. So when I do a training, one I've been doing is for our extended summer school. So how to use our virtual curriculum within Schoology. It's fairly technical, and so there's all sorts of different levels of tech use amongst our staff, and so getting those lower individuals kind of up to speed in a hurry and doing it in an entertaining way, because it's 2020, you got to stand out. So I've been doing prizes, and they love that. Who doesn't love swag? And so shout out to our vendors for hooking it up, Turnitin, Wakelet, uh, Flipgrid, Schoology, amongst others. You've all been great with helping me out with that. So that really helps in the staff trainings, and that kind of separates my trainings from others. And then
Mhm.
doing a lot of edu protocols. So I usually try and do Fast and Curious, Iron Chef, and Sketch and Tell or something like that. And that keeps them engaged. And then I have these embedded checks for understanding. That's been something I've been doing a lot of lately. And I have like a whole little pack. I'll have to share it out after this.
Yeah, I'd
Anything
love to see
teachers
it.
can use. Yeah, it's real simple. It's just some basic graphics, like a 3-2-1 chart. I'll see if I can pull some stuff up. Any I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. This might be a great time if anyone has a question for Dawn or myself talking about tech integration at this point. It doesn't have to be for the Schoology LMS per se. And I'm going to pull up some of my check for understanding graphics right now.
Well, and I think it's interesting as you say the stuff that you're offering, and we are starting to do. I'm not starting. We're continuing to do things that are more voluntary. That's one thing I think that our district has learned, that teachers are so stressed out right now that in the old days it could be, okay, we're having a half day in service. You must attend this from 9 to 10 or from 10 to 11, and they're starting to get away from that. But I'll tell you, and I don't know if your teachers are in the same mode, it's that time factor. It's just I don't have time for anything new. So it's us trying to balance, like, I I'm trying to think how to say this and not sound offensive toward anybody. It's not that they don't have time in their mind, but it's kind of like exercise. If they start
Yes.
realizing, you know what, I really can make the time, we have to on our end make it valuable. And if we don't make it valuable and relevant and timely, then they're not. Then it's easier to say, well, I don't have time for that. So that's what our challenge has been, as a coaching team. There's two people in particular that I work with: the junior high instructional coach and the high school instructional coach. We've really, um, started to think about, okay, how can we make this more engaging?
So Michael Drezick says, "Can you share an example of your favorite edu protocol and why?" Yeah, I could probably do that. I think my maybe not my favorite because I didn't plan ahead of time. So I have some sensitive student data on there. I would say my favorite is Fast and Curious, but I could show you Sketch and Tell, which is probably my second favorite. That or Thin Slides. And so um, up here on the screen, I have a simple yes no graphic you could throw in the chat, throw it into your slideshow, and I make these available to my teachers, and I'll throw it in the comments below. 3-2-1 chart. These are simple things. It's nothing extravagant. This is a concept I got from Anita Archer. This is something that students can point to on their screen, print out. It can be used in the physical classroom, face to face, during hybrid or complete distance or digital learning. They can hold it up, they can point to it, they can make a paper version for themselves. It doesn't necessarily have to have these graphics. And so if you're having like an A through D style choice, they can just point to the letter on the screen and you can see all of the students pointing to that, or true, false, agree, disagree, those kinds of quick things, or they can type it in the chat. So I really like that one. And I just put my own spin on it. I call it the picture perfect digital learning answer sheet. So our teachers like that, true, false. All these things are really simple. You could do your own. I did all of these in Adobe Spark, thumbs up, thumbs down. Looks like we got that. And here's my second favorite edu protocol, Sketch and Tell. So on the left side, after you've given the students a prompt, let's say um, what I had them do recently was I showed them how to navigate our digital curriculum. And so they had to find one interactive component. So in the sketch portion, they could draw in Google Draw, they could pull in an image. It's really up to you. Place it there in the sketch session. I like with students doing infographics. So if I were doing this with students, I would have them put an infographic of some type there. And then on the right side, tell me about it. And you can even engage in the 4 C's, have this be collaborative. One student can sketch, the other one can tell. They can talk to each other, come up with how to present it, and then share it out with like a 10 to 30-second presentation, something super fast, and you can get through the whole class very easily. And this is something I only give participants 5 minutes on. And usually I'll provide them a link at the top and direction so they know what to do. So I'll say it, I'll show it to them, I'll model it for them. If it's a new concept and we haven't done it, we'll practice together and then they'll do it independently. So what are your thoughts, Don? We got 4 corners here too.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I was in the classroom, I mean, my favorite was the live Likert scale, a scale of 1 to 10, because as a social studies teacher, and I don't take offense at this, like the agree, disagree, that there are times when just simply an agree or disagree works, but I would try to show them in a social studies class that, and I love a member of 4 o'clock faculty, I think it was Jamie Leach, who got me
Oh,
to
she's
think about
great.
things. Oh, I love Jamie. The idea of we need to look at the world like a diamond. that it's not just one or two sides or even three. It's this, depending on how you turn the diamond, is how you look at it. So I
Mhm.
love that scale of 1 to 10, because they could look at it and say, it's not, I disagree with what we did, but I understand why we did it. So that takes it from a 1 to a 4 or a 3
Right.
or, and so I love things where you can, like on a Google slide, being able to just take, like and I say infinite clone, I'm speaking in smartboard language, the
Mhm.
infinite cloner where you would just have dots or you'd have their name or whatever, and they would just click that and drag it. And so you could get a sense of,
That's a
from the
great idea.
class's perspective. I love using Mentimeter for that, because
Yeah.
with Mentimeter, it's one of those things that I almost always hide responses until they're all done,
Mhm.
because even if you have a Google slide and you're moving stuff over, you're seeing, ooh, okay, I don't want to be the odd person out, so I'm going to move mine to where everybody else is. When you have Mentimeter and you've got that scale of 1 to 10, and you are saying, well, which one am I don't let them see what everybody else has answered until they respond. Same way on Schoology, you can do that discussion where you say, I can't see everybody else's or anybody else's response until I respond. And so,
Yeah.
I like any kind of those protocols. I mean, I love all of those that you had, and I like that it's almost very Plickr like.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you've got a
Oh,
bunch
I
of
love
different
the
ways.
flickers too.
Yep, I
Yeah.
love Plickers. And it's funny, just on a side note for Plickers, when you show that to someone, at first they're, what? I don't, and then the second thought is, oh, there's no way that works that way. And then I get
Right.
teachers that respond back and they're like, holy smokes, that really worked that way. And so I think any of those protocols, yeah, hide the names feature. And I
Hide
was
the
just going to
names
say
on Nearpod. Yeah, I
Nearpod.
do that all the
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of the tools now, which is nice, really let you do that. Just adding one little piece to what you were saying too. One technique that I learned, we call it waterfall in our district. I don't know who came up with it, but
I
it's something
just
I
learned
picked
about this.
up. Oh, okay.
Yep.
So the way it works, or the way we do it, anyways, is students answer in the chat, but they don't hit send until I do a 3, 2, 1, and that's where that graphic comes in. And I have an animated version that goes three, two,
Okay.
and then one. And then they know, boom. And it's so cool to see all the answers populate. So we don't have that like, oh, I have to, everybody's choosing 3 or 4, I have to choose that option effect where uh, they have this independence, and we're
Yep.
getting a better true sampling of student expression or demonstration of knowledge, whatever you're looking for with your driving question.
Yeah, and I think it was at an ISTE session where, and I've got my notes somewhere, but it
Right?
was just a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said the waterfall technique, and I was trying, like, my brain's always like, waterfall technique. I wonder what that is. And as soon as she started saying it, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant, because it does. It's that way. Um, I think sometimes as educators, we don't put ourselves back in the student position.
Right.
So we complain that they don't have their cameras on. We complain about those types of things, which I get, but to really dig into why aren't they doing it? And when when we kind of force them to say, this is what I believe, and then we make them wait so they don't feel like, okay, I'm watching everybody else. And so I'm going to be the odd person out. Which, I think there has to still be a culture created by a teacher in the class to allow that waterfall to work completely, because
Mhm.
because names are going to be there. You still have to have that culture that, look, every voice matters. And I think as a teacher, that's what I try to work on is, if a teacher says to me, I don't know, I didn't like X tool in my class, I really try to get them to dig down in, was it the way that you used it? Is it the students? Is there something you could do culture wise to get them to where they would be more comfortable with that particular strategy. But yeah, I love that waterfall. That's cool.
Yeah. I want to dip over to STEM before we close. What have you done in the past? Is there anything you're doing now? And, what recommendations would you have for educators out there to engage in STEM or promote STEM?
Yeah, and I knew when we were talking yesterday, I was like, "Oh boy, that's going to be the downfall here." And then I started thinking about it, and at our junior high and high school, we have had in place such great STEM oriented type of things, Project Lead the Way,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
those type of things that honestly I haven't, as a tech integration specialist, really had to do much to encourage that. It's just part of it. I know first or second year that I was in this role, the junior high principal and I were talking, and we thought that it was important to introduce STEM. There really wasn't that at the junior high. So we visited some schools and came up with a career, what it's called Career Maker uh, lab. And so it really is a STEM lab. It's giving students opportunities to experiment with different types of STEM like activities. So our junior high and high school really have done a nice job. At the elementary schools, it is more left to individual teachers. And I'm the first one to say I've not really pushed that as much as
Mm.
I need to. And then there's that STEM thing that now with sharing something, because we're in person, now you get teachers that say, well, it's hard to get them to share supplies and so forth. So I know we have some principals that have done like mobile STEM kits and things like that. So
Right.
it's one of those areas. There are two areas that, in my mind, I am not keeping. I need to do more on my end, and that's the STEM side of it, and then that is the AR VR. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
not as
Awesome
I
stuff.
haven't kept up with it. And, when you get people like Rochelle and Jamie Donley and people like
Yeah.
that, I just need to do more with that. And I don't know if other people find this same thing. It, I think we get pigeonhole depending on, it could be state, district, region of the country. You get pigeonholed. And right now, AR, VR is something, or STEM, that is not as much on our particular district's radar. So then, as a school leader, as a teacher leader that I would consider myself, I haven't done a lot to say we need to put it on our radar. And I'm always, I think it's opportunities like this to talk where I do kind of note it, like, dang it, I haven't, I need to do more in that particular realm.
Oh, I think you're right, and I can relate. I was really reflecting as you were talking. I'm like, you know what? Thought I was doing well, but I could do a whole lot better. You mentioned the mobile STEM kit, so that's something we've looked into, but we can go further. I know my kiddos really like their school that they belong to, got the students Kiwi crates. That's a cool little product. I think it's grossly overpriced for the materials, but the students absolutely love it, and it's really inspired my 4-year-old. He's not enrolled. We decided not to enroll him in TK. We just thought with the pandemic, hey, it's going to be a little rough.
Hmm.
We don't want to have to worry about one more kiddo on conference calls. It's going to be challenging enough with the other two, so let's not worry about him. He's going to be fine. We're still going to work with him, of course, uh, but we're just not going to formally, add him to the mix. And it's been neat. He's fed off of that, and it's a great reminder for me. I need to order him his own kiwi crate because he loves it so much when his siblings get it, and he's super artistic, just naturally gifted. Now he's no professional artist. He's not
Yeah.
a child prodigy, but I'm so proud of him. My oldest got a little robot, built it, and then the youngest saw it and then drew and showed us a picture, and he's like, brother's robot. And it looked a lot like the robot. You could see it, of course, the shapes weren't perfect, the dimensions were way off, but he had the proper shape. So it had the rectangular body, square
Mhm.
head, and my son had customized his robot and put a couple screws through the head to make it look like a
Like a
Frankenstein's.
Frankenstein, yeah.
Yeah, and the youngest had copied that in his depiction, which was really cool, and then did his own artistic adjustments and added hair. So when he came to us, he said, "Brother's robot with hair." I'm like, okay. And that's huge because, I guess this is probably my first time sharing this publicly. He's a little delayed in his speech. And so neat to have the youngest come out of his shell a little bit and have a reason to really share out.
Mhm.
Uh, and what a great opportunity for him. So STEM's been great that way. Let's see what Michael Drezick has to say. Yeah, it's hard to do it all.
Yeah.
Time and place for everything. Keep crushing it, guys. Well, thank you, brother. This guy is talking about us crushing it.
Oh, I
This guy
know.
is crushing it. I learned so much when I had him on the TNT EdTech podcast. He and I also met up at ISTE 2019, talk about a conference, right? Worth every penny in terms of self-fulfillment, investing in myself and learning and building these relationships. I don't think I would have the position I have had I not gone. Jamie Donnelly, who you mentioned, wrote me an excellent letter of recommendation for my current position. I definitely know that helped. It did not hurt to have an ISTE author write you a letter of recommendation. And what she and Rochelle are doing is just
Yeah,
great.
Jamie's
Oh, we got Heather Lippert. Hey, Heather. Oh, you were so
Oh,
kind.
I'll tell you, Heather is one of my favorite people. She was
Yeah, gotta
my
follow her.
secret Santa for my book this year. So
What? So tell us about that. We're running low on time here. Tell us about that and then give us your socials and your podcast info.
and I missed the part when you said tell us about
I don't even about um
the book.
yeah, the book, The
Yeah.
Secret Santa.
Oh, we do in
Sorry.
4 o'clock faculty. We do a book exchange, and mine was How to Hide an Empire. The history geek in me. So Heather was my secret Santa, and Heather's another one that her and Elizabeth Merce and Jamie Leach at ISTE. It was just like we had known each other for years. So I love them dearly. And so yeah, my social, I've got it there on the screen. I really am a Twitter person, more than
Same.
anything. That is where I do things professionally. So it's at Sturm Don, and I have Instagram the same at Sturm Don, but I definitely am a Twitter geek more than anything else when it comes to the education.
Right. Yeah, same here. So of course I'm doing this on Facebook Live. So I'm trying something different,
Yep.
branching
No,
out,
I love
but
that.
for my typical digital conversations, it's Twitter. And if it's deeply professional, it's LinkedIn. Facebook, I'm just dabbling in. It doesn't appeal to me as much as other social media. Same with Instagram. I'm not a huge fan, and I tried TikTok briefly. That just didn't work for me, and I found I was spreading myself a little thin and not really enjoying it when I tried to do them all. So I'm just back focusing on Twitter, and I do this on Facebook Live, and I like this in terms of Facebook. I realize, hey, I love attending live talks on Facebook and being in the audience. And I've been on enough of these types of podcasts and shows to where I'm like, yeah, I like this. Let me try it for my own podcast and see how that goes. And where can people find your podcast and what's it about? I think it's a great topic, and I love chatting with you at ISTE about it.
So a friend and I, we do a podcast called For a Better Tomorrow. So the number four and
Mhm.
a better tomorrow. You can find it on Apple Podcast. I mean, I've got it basically published everywhere, and it's our attempt to try to make things better. It's definitely a political discussion. Um, we like to say it's unbiased. That's impossible for it to be
Right,
unbiased. We definitely lean a certain way, but we really do we're trying to bring back the idea of factual conversation, um,
right.
legitimate conversation between people who disagree. That he ran for Congress. I was his campaign manager
Wow.
while he was doing that. And so, yeah, and it just kind of we wanted something after we did not win.
Mm,
It was okay. We're not just done. I mean, we're done with politics. We saw some kind of the negative side of it, and now we just need to keep doing something different. We try to make it something that teachers could use in class. So we do episodes like probably our most popular one is on the Electoral College, but we've done some on dark money. We
ooh,
tomorrow next week Thursday we will record on kind of the year in review and
yeah, what a
take
year to
about a
review.
3 week hiatus and then we'll come back and we like topics. So yeah, it is a labor of love. That's where I've got
Yeah,
my studio set up in here for the podcast, and I was actually thinking about this StreamYard. We
yeah.
don't do it. We record the video, but I just rip out the audio and publish it that way. So, but yeah, it's uh, called For a Better Tomorrow.
No, I love that. And Michael Dresik says he's going to subscribe. And speaking about StreamYard, which we're using, and having the video, what I've been doing now too with these episodes is I'm uploading them to my YouTube channel at Mr. Noon's Teach. So you can,
Mm.
if you missed a part, you can go back, or, if you prefer YouTube over Facebook, or you want to share with a friend, expect that up soon. It's a new thing for me, so it does take a little bit longer. I wish it were more instantaneous. I haven't committed yet to buying one of the paid versions yet. I thought, hey, let me see about getting consistent first, and then I'll invest. And I'm waiting for a sale. They had a great Black Friday sale, but that came and went very quickly, and I missed that. It was about half off. So I'm hoping for something like that. Maybe they'll do a holiday sale.
And that's
Uh,
with StreamYard.
yeah, for StreamYard.
Okay, I wondered. Like I said, I kind of looked into it. We use for our podcast Spreaker, and I love it. And I mean, I don't remember what we paid. We got to a point where I think we're at 27 or 28 episodes. So, we got to a point where it's like, okay, the free one, we need to do some other things. We need to be able to schedule. I don't want to have to be at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm at work. I don't want to be posting my personal podcast. So yeah, and I love Spreaker. I think Dan Kreiness, or now Dr. Dan Kreiness,
Right.
um, he was the one that kind of helped walk me through some of the initial podcasting stuff. So yeah, I'm podcasting geek now with my big board over here to my right side, and yeah.
No, it's a great space. And even though I'm doing it, there's plenty of room, folks. If you've been on the fence, there's no time like now. I just spoke with a colleague. He attended a session by Brian Briggs and Ryan Donnelly at ISTE. That's who really helped me get going. And also Tom Covington and Kyle Anderson, who you were on
Oh,
the Beer EDU
yeah, Beer
podcast.
EDU podcast. Yep.
Yeah, those 3 greatly influenced me, and then I think one of the other ones, it just came to me, The Connected Educator by the Grundlers,
Yeah.
Laura and Matt. They do the hashtag K12 art chat on Thursday evening. So follow that as well. It's not just for artists or art teachers, it's all about art integration. And so they had me on their podcast. I had such a blast that's when I went to Matthew Ketchum and I said, hey, let's do this thing. You ready to try this? And a month later, after being on the Connected Educator, we had the TNT Ed Tech podcast, and now I have this one, Education Today, and I have a private one for the district called Ask a Tech Coach. And I'm loving it. This is my preferred medium for sharing content. I like it much better than formalized writing. I'm a really slow typer, so it's a little painful having all these thoughts and having to wait to
Yep.
physically get them out where I can
And
just speak them.
that's how I am. I love the medium of voice. And it's funny, when I was in the classroom, so this has been, oh gosh, easily 10 years ago, I used to podcast my classroom. And I don't know if you are aware and how much you've been into podcasts. Podcasts were like hugely popular, and then they kind of died out, and not that many people. And then all of a sudden there's been this resurgence over the last, I don't know, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And it's just so funny because I was doing it. And when I say I was podcasting my class, I mean, I was putting my class out there live and commenting on it. And that's how kids, if they were gone or whatever. And now it's just, I mean, I'm listening to podcasts all the time. It's books on tape or podcast. I very seldom listen to music on my 30 or 35-minute drive in.
Yeah, very much the same here. I don't have the drive now. That is typically when I listen. So I do miss that, but I try to make some time on my walks. That's been my new listening space. I don't have the commute. I'm doing my walks, and that's when I'm listening to my Voxes on Voxer and doing my podcasts and any kind of YouTube commentaries that I'm staying in touch with. Yeah, I really like that medium and looking at debates and things. On YouTube, it's a great platform. I really enjoy it, and that made me want to get on as well. I want to make sure, once again, everybody's following you at Sturm Dawn. And one more time, what's your podcast, Don?
4, the number 4, A Better Tomorrow. Yeah, and again, I go through Apple Podcasts, but you can, I think I've got it on
players, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So you'll know you're there if you get this symbol with 2 cartoonish looking characters. A friend of mine is the graphic designer for Distill. They're a beer distributor here in the area, and so I commissioned him to do ours, and I love it. But that's how you'll know you're there.
Nice. Well, thank you again, Don, for coming on this morning. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Loved it. Had a great time.
Thank you for listening to Education Today. It is my pleasure to share with you all. Let's stay connected on Twitter. You can find me at Mr. Noons Teach. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on the player of your choice and give Education Today a positive review on Apple Podcasts. Remember, everyone, out here in this field of education, it's grind time.